So
Okay,
this
great.
is Sarah Geis with the trust department. So go
Yeah,
ahead, Sarah.
she
Okay,
won't be
great.
us.
I will let you tell your title. I don't want to mess it up.
No worries at all. And I am going to pull up just a general presentation that I have about special needs trusts. Um, how much time do I have, Sean?
About a half an hour.
Beautiful.
Or
Okay, great. No, I love that. So I am going to share my screen in just a moment, and we will dive into the great wild world of special needs trusts. Am I able to share my screen? I think I need the request to be able to do that.
I think you should be able to.
Okay, I can. Okay, great. Right. So you now should all be able to see the full presentation. Is that right? I'm going to assume yes, since I'm not.
Yes, I was talking when I was muted.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right. So hi everyone. Thanks so much for SAI for inviting me to chat today. My name is Sarah Geis, and I am the Senior Director of Engagement for the ARC Master Trust, which is a program of the ARC of Indiana. I was invited today to just do a general presentation about special needs trusts. Just as a brief overview, the world of special needs trusts can feel complex and intimidating. There are a lot of different moving parts. There's a lot of flexibility within trusts, and that means that there's a lot of information to learn. I, as a part of the ARC Master Trust, am someone that meets one-on-one with people to talk about special needs trusts, ways for people to be able to save financial resources and protect their eligibility for government benefits, and just answer general questions. So after this presentation, if you have questions or if you'd want to schedule a time to talk more, always feel welcome to reach out to me, and my direct contact information is going to be in the chat. So this presentation briefly overviews what type of special needs trusts exist and how special needs trusts can be set up. Again, the ARC Master Trust is a program of the ARC of Indiana. So why someone might need a special needs trust. So as we might be familiar, there are some government benefits that do have caps to the amount of financial assets that someone is allowed to have in order to maintain their eligibility for those government benefits. So I usually talk with people who have government benefits like SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid. For these programs, generally speaking, there is an asset limit of $2,000. So on the first of each month, Medicaid and SSI would want to see that someone is below $2,000 from all sources. So Medicaid and SSI could be looking at the combined total of what's in someone's checking account, savings account, potentially investments, or other, sort of gains. There are exceptions. One is the house that you live in, a car, if you use that for your own benefit. Prepaying your funeral expenses is also exempt. And there are also special savings accounts like a special needs trust that folks can utilize to save for their future. So that's the point of a special needs trust. It is a way for someone to be able to save money and protect their eligibility for government benefits. The money or the assets that are held in a special needs trust do not count against someone's asset limit. So a special needs trust can be a way for somebody to save their own money for themselves. It can also be a way for parents, grandparents, or other loved ones to financially prepare for the future of someone who might need government benefits. There are two different kinds of special needs trusts, and the difference between the two is whose money is going into that trust for the benefit of the trust beneficiary. The term trust beneficiary is the term that we use to define the person who will quite literally be benefiting from the money that is in the trust. So like if my sister has a trust, my sister is known as the trust beneficiary. So the two types of special needs trusts are called third party and first party. A third party special needs trust is going to contain the financial assets of somebody else for the benefit of that trust beneficiary. So if I wanted to create a special needs trust for my sister that contained, the proceeds from my life insurance for her benefit, I would be looking at setting up a third party special needs trust for her. Typically, the individuals that I work with, when I'm talking about third-party trusts, they're usually parents or grandparents who are looking at ways or options to be able to save for their children or grandchildren. So a lot of times, a third-party trust is created as a part of someone's will or estate planning, where the funds, parents will set this up, but the intent is that money's not going to go into that trust until that parent or grandparent has passed away. A first party special needs trust is the trust that is going to contain the financial assets of the trust beneficiary for their own benefit. So if someone is receiving Social Security, or they have a job and they want to save their income, maybe they are named as the recipient of an inheritance, or maybe they get a lawsuit settlement. All of those are considered that person's money, and they can use a first party trust to save that money for themselves. So those are the two different types. Now there are different specifics on who can establish these trusts. So a third party special needs trust, anyone who's not the intended trust beneficiary can set up a third party trust for that person. I can set up a third party trust for my sister. So can my mom. So could my dad. So could my grandma. We could all have separate ones for my sister's benefit, or we could create one special needs trust and we all contribute to that one trust for the benefit of my sister. That's all perfectly fine. With a first party trust, there is a list of people who would be deemed authorized to create that first party trust. So first and foremost, if the trust beneficiary is an adult, they're able to create that trust for themselves. So like if my sister says, hey, I'm on Medicaid, I want to be able to save some of my income, I want to set up a first party trust to do that, my sister absolutely has the legal right to do so. If my sister needs help in getting that set up, she could also have my parents or my grandparents work with her and be the people to sign to legally establish this trust. If someone has a POA or a legal guardian, the POA or legal guardian might be the individual who's required to sign, but that would be based on what type of POA has been set up or what type of guardianship has been set up. And again, an individual can have more than one special needs trust, and there can be a combination of both third party and first party assets. Or sorry, it can be a combination of both a third party special needs trust and a first party special needs trust. There's also typically no limits to the amount that can be held in these trusts, and there's no restrictions on the number of deposits that could be made in a given year. Someone could start a trust with $100 and continue to build up and make deposits at any time. Another person could start their trust with $1 million and make no other contributions. Both of those are absolutely doable. There are eligibility requirements for the trust beneficiary to meet in order to be eligible for these trusts, and they are different between the two options. So for a trust beneficiary to be eligible for a third-party trust, that individual just needs to have a disability diagnosis through a medical professional or be receiving some sort of government benefit like Social Security or Medicaid. With a first party special needs trust, in order for the beneficiary to be considered eligible, the trust beneficiary needs to have been deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration at some point during their life in order to set up the trust. So that means that at some point before getting the first party trust set up, that person needs to have been given the disability determination. That means that this person could be receiving SSI, SSDI, Social Security retirement, railroad retirement benefits also counts. If they have that, they qualify for a first party trust. Someone might have received Social Security benefits before, and let's say that they work themselves off of Social Security, or for some reason they don't have Social Security benefits at the time they apply for the trust. That's okay. You don't need to have that Social Security benefit when you feel like you need a trust or when you want a trust set up. You just have to have had that at some point during your life. So that was a lot of information. So we're going to take everything that I just said in the last couple of slides and kind of put it into a real world scenario. So we have an individual named Caitlin who is disabled, who lives in an apartment in her hometown. Caitlin gets Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, and Medicaid disability benefits. Caitlin also has a part-time job. Caitlin's mom, Jennifer, is updating her estate planning and wants to make sure that the funds that Jennifer wants to leave to Caitlin don't impact Caitlin's Medicaid benefits. Caitlin herself is also finding that with her part-time job, she is nearing or going over her asset limit every month. In this scenario, Caitlin is both eligible for a third party and a first party special needs trust. Caitlin is an individual with a disability, which means she's eligible for a third party trust. And Caitlin is receiving Social Security benefits, which means she got that disability determination from Social Security, which means she qualifies for a first party trust. Jennifer can establish the third party trust either with an attorney or a nonprofit to get the third party trust set up. Caitlin also has the same options, and Caitlin doesn't have a POA or a legal guardian. So Caitlin can set up that first party trust herself, or she can ask for Jennifer's help if Jennifer wants that, if Caitlin feels like she needs that help from Jennifer. So that hopefully taken the last couple of slides of information that we've learned and putting it into sort of a real world practice scenario. This is one of my favorite slides of the presentation. How can a special needs trust be used? This is a graphic that we at the ARC Master Trust use to describe the most common goods and services that an individual can use their trusts for. By no means is this list all inclusive, and we have absolutely purchased things that are not on this list for individuals who have trusts. When I chat with people and they ask me, how can the trust be used? Oftentimes I have to kind of flip that question on them. And I ask, well, how do you want the trust to be used? It's really, directed by the trust beneficiary or the trusted people in their lives to let the trust know, hey, how do you want to use this? Really, the trust is just there to make sure that that person is able to use that money without impacting their eligibility for government benefits. So if anyone ever, sees this list or, is really reflecting on, hey, how can I use a trust? Always feel welcome to reach out to us and know that it's a pretty extensive list. There are rules, though, that special needs trusts are required to follow. These rules are set by government agencies like Social Security and Medicaid, and they do dictate how trusts can be used. So a big rule is usually money in the trust can only be used for the primary sole benefit of the trust beneficiary. That means that money in the trust really can't be used to pay for gifts for other people, and the funds in the trust can only pay for that person's fair share of expenses. So, if I was splitting a phone bill with my sister and we split it 50-50, my sister can't have her trust pay for the entirety of the phone bill. The trust can pay for her half. The expectation is, hey, I'm an adult. I should be responsible for my half of the phone bill. Setting up a trust does not change how someone might get their Social Security benefit or how someone might get their income. So if someone wants to pay for a gift for someone for like a birthday or a holiday, they still have the ability to use their Social Security or their income to do that. Sometimes what folks will do is they'll have their trust pay for more of their regular bills or expenses so that they have more of their own Social Security to pay for gifts for other people. That's something to consider. For folks who have SSI benefits, Social Security says that someone's SSI payment should be going to pay for shelter expenses. And Social Security defines that as rent or mortgage payment and basic utilities. When a trust like this pays for someone's shelter expenses when they have SSI, it can trigger a reduction in what that person receives from SSI by a max of 1/3. Now, there are absolutely times where someone's trust paying for shelter expenses is still the best option, even if there is that SSI reduction. So the trust can still be an option for payment, but the trust might be hesitant to do that just because of that reduction in SSI. Now, this reduction only takes place for people who have SSI benefits. So if someone gets a different Social Security benefit like SSDI, that reduction does not take place. And the last big one that I always like to cover is for folks who receive both Medicaid and SSI, funds in a trust cannot be considered immediately accessible to the trust beneficiary. So that means a trust can't write the beneficiary a check that they could go cash, can't direct deposit money into a checking account. If that were to happen, SSI and Medicaid could count that as income, and that can impact someone's benefits as well. So instead of a trust giving someone money directly, there are a lot of options for how a trust can make purchases. First and foremost, a trust can pay for something directly. If someone says, hey, I want my trust to pay for my internet bill every month, the trust could say, great, absolutely. Send us the internet bill, and the trust will make sure that that gets paid for every month. Same thing is true for, one-off invoices, like maybe a copay for a veterinary appointment, or if you have like a dental bill, trust can pay for that as well. Trust can do a lot of online ordering. So if there's anything someone found online through like a major store, Walmart, Amazon, Target, trust can pay for it online, have it shipped to wherever the trust beneficiary says to send that to. A trust can also pay for credit card payments. We do that at the ARC Master Trust. Someone sends us their credit card statement. We pay for the statement out of their trust. A trust can reimburse somebody else. So like if I paid for something on behalf of my sister and my sister says, hey, you can be reimbursed out of my trust for that, I would send the receipt or the proof of payment to the trust, and the trust can send me that reimbursement. There are other options that could be available. It really depends on the government benefits that the beneficiary is receiving and how the trust has been set up and what the trust's policies are. That can provide more options for how a trust can purchase things. So if you have other, specifics, or if you have specific questions about that, always feel welcome to reach out to us to have that sort of one-on-one. When a trust beneficiary passes away, depending on whether they have a third party or first party trust, that can impact what happens to any remaining funds in the trust. For individuals who have a third party special needs trust, the people who set that up are the ones who provide the information for where any remaining funds should go in the event that that beneficiary passes away. So if I set up a third party trust for my sister, part of me getting that set up would have been me saying, hey, Here's where I would want any remaining funds to go if she passed away. In a first-party special needs trust, something different happens, and it's called Medicaid estate recovery. So for first-party trusts, when someone passes away, any remaining funds left in the trust are first subject to Medicaid estate recovery. Medicaid can stake a claim to attempt to be reimbursed for the cost of care that Medicaid has paid out to that person over the course of that person's lifetime. So thinking about that and knowing that, if someone has both a first party and a third party trust, you typically want to prioritize using the first party trust first because you know that Medicaid estate recovery is going to happen. That's a lot of information about third party and first party special needs trusts. And now we're going to talk about how someone could get a third party or first party special needs trust set up. The two options we have for that are working with a nonprofit organization to set up the trust. Sometimes that's known as a pooled trust, or working with an attorney to set up the trust, sometimes known as a private trust. I create this visual to say, you know, hey, for most people, both options are available for both types of trusts. So you can, for the most part, go to a pooled trust to set up both a third and first party trust. Same thing is true with a private trust. Every special needs trust that exists has to have a trustee that's overseeing the trust. The trustee cannot be the trust beneficiary. So this has to be either a separate person or organization or banking institution or attorney. But the trustee is the one who's responsible for working with the trust beneficiary to make sure that the trust is paying for everything that the beneficiary wants the trust to pay for. The trustee is also responsible for making sure that the trust is compliant with any laws and regulations that it's required to. The trustee also handles any investment strategies and any tax filings that the trust might have. And depending on which route you go, pooled or private, can impact who the trustee might be. So in a pooled special needs trust situation, the nonprofit organization itself is the trustee. So with the ARC Master Trust, we, the nonprofit, are the trustee for all of the trusts that we manage. We call it pooled because all of the money from all of the trusts that are invested are quite literally pooled together for the purposes of investment. Every trust that we manage does have their own account. It is tracked independently, but on the side of the bank, all of the funds are pooled together for that purpose of investment. The thought process behind that is that folks get a larger return on investment than if their trusts were invested independently. Having the nonprofit organization be the trustee is really helpful for some folks because it means that they can be that they are usually an expert on the laws and regulations for this type of trust. You can also work with an attorney to get something like this done. Working with an attorney does give you a bit more flexibility on who the trustee would be, because that can mean that you can elect a family member or a friend or a banking institution. If you did want a family member or a friend being the trustee, it's important that they be aware of the responsibilities that they would have to have or that they would have to become the owner of, and making sure that they feel comfortable with all of the things that they will be responsible for. Assets that are held in a special needs trust, you have a larger variety of assets that can be held in a private trust. So things like property or retirement accounts like an IRA or a 401k, those can be held in a private special needs trust. They can't really be held in a pooled trust. Pooled trust is really only able to manage cash assets. And there can be benefits to having both. So just like you can have both a third party and a first party special needs trust, you can also have a trust that's managed by a nonprofit organization and a trust that's managed by a family member or friend. Some people might do that because of the assets that they want protected. Sometimes they do that because they want the expertise of having the pooled trust in their court as well. So like I said at the very beginning, this is a world that has a lot of flexibility, that has a lot of different moving parts, really to benefit that trust beneficiary as much as possible. So if you ever have questions or really want to talk more, always feel welcome to reach out to us. This is our website and our main email address and phone number. We also have a webinar series on our website. It's called Talks with the ARC Trust. It's a series of videos that we have put together that talk about special needs trusts, your options, and then the weird things that I've seen come up when we talk about finances and government benefits. Again, always feel welcome to reach out if you have other questions, but I will stop sharing here. And I am also available to answer any questions right now if you'd like.
Well, thank you for sharing all that information, Sarah. I know that was very informative to me. I think when I come to the ARC, I will be definitely getting in contact with you because I know that there's some information that I want to get about the Special Needs Trust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just going to see if we have any questions or comments in the chat, which
Jessica, did you have your hand up?
I don't have a handout like with me,
No,
but
I said Jessica. Did
oh,
you have a not Jessica,
oh,
but
handout.
Katie? Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I will say though that I mean my mom and I did think about doing that for me,
Mhm.
but then it kind of like it died away just because we got busy and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But maybe I can take this information and share it with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like a
That'd
great
be
idea.
good. That'd be great.
yeah, I don't see any questions or comments in the
Me neither.
chat.
Well, if that is the case, I will hop off. I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and a good meeting.
You too.
All
Bye,
right.
Sarah. Take
Thank
care.
Bye.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.